When a child hits a child, we call it aggression. When a child hits an adult, we call it hostility. When an adult hits an adult, we call it assault. But when an adult hits a child, we call it discipline. This is a quote by Haim Ginott, a child psychologist and psychotherapist. It is evident that disciplining kids with violence has historically been a common practice. Until about 20 years ago, physical punishment of children was widely accepted on a global scale as an appropriate manner to enforce behavior that was conceptually distinct from physical abuse. However, as research has revealed linkages between standard violent disciplining with child aggression and disobedience, this viewpoint has slowly started to shift.
Violent discipline include any of the following based on UNICEF Child Discipline Module. This covers a variety of aggressive forms of punishment such as psychological aggressions, which involve yelling, screaming, and shouting at children, as well as calling them derogatory names like dumb or lazy. Physical disciplines includes shaking, smacking, or slapping a child with one bare hand and beating the child as severely as possible. According to previous research, it has indicated that violence against children in school is a critical global problem. Studies report that millions of children worldwide experience violence at school. The prevalence of violence by teachers hits 93% in India, 51% in Peru, 50% in Vietnam, 76% in Ethiopia, 58% in Jamaica, and 56% in Yemen. In spite of the fact that teaching children self-control and appropriate behavior is an essential component of child raising across all cultures, many parents still resort to using physical force. Malaysia is no exception. Our own survey have shown a staggering 76.9% of students have experienced violence disciplining of some form.
Today, we're going to talk about 4 things. Number 1, how prevalent is violent disciplining in Malaysia? Number 2, what are the philosophical point of views of violent disciplining from various cultures? Number 3, how does violent discipline affect children's psychology, physiology, and behavior? And finally, number 4, is violent disciplining an effective method to discipline children?
To answer these questions, our team decided to use 2 methods. The first was a survey questionnaire. A Google form was created for the online questionnaire distribution with 7 different questions regarding violent discipline to our targeted audience. We incorporated open-ended and some multiple-choice questions. The second method was content analysis. This was done via primary and secondary sources from online journals. The keywords violent discipline, child abuse, and parenting were used to find relevant information via online databases.
From our survey, we managed to gather the following. Majority of the respondents, 76.9%, which is 50 out of 65, had experienced violent discipline before. This is an astonishing result as we can deduce that nearly 3 out of 4 people had previously encountered this issue in their life. Most of them believe that violent discipline would not be a more effective way compared to traditional positive discipline. 38.5% and 23.1% of respondents voted that violent discipline is not more effective than normal discipline, respectively, with 15 of them remaining indifferent, and only 15.4% of respondents mentioned that they slightly agree with the statement that violent discipline is more effective. Most of the respondents strongly believe that the religion they come from plays a role in how the family chooses its form of disciplining. This could be due to the personal experiences of the respondents that come from various religious backgrounds. 75.4% of the respondents, which is a total of 49, selected no as an option to use violent discipline to raise their kids if they are parents to a child. This could be because they feel that the form of violent disciplining is not proper and irrelevant in order to raise a child properly, and that it could be done in a better way. So now, for the burning question.
Hi! Do you think violent discipline is good or bad to raise kids? I don't see that as an efficient way to raise a child, because I feel like there would be a lot of trauma, a lot of emotional baggage that the child would carry. I think that will also make them more rebellious. They would also destroy their own relationship with their parents. It will cause them a lot of trauma, and just it will not make them grow up into a better human being.
Hello. Do you think violent disciplining is a good method to raise a child? I agree to a certain extent. I think it depends on the situation. If multiple early occurrences doesn't work on child, I think violent discipline might be worth a try. It might make the kid vividly remember their mistakes so that they don't repeat it again. It is good at a certain extent, however, it should be only used when it's needed, and it should not be used by the parent to take advantage of the kid or to instill fear in the kids.
From our content analysis, we discovered Eastern and Western philosophers each have their own take on violence disciplining.
Western philosophy gravitates towards looking into parts of the idea, while Eastern philosophy tends to focus on the bigger picture by viewing the idea as a whole.
First and foremost, let's view violent disciplining from Western philosophy's point of view. Aristotle believed that violence is a necessity. In the context of violence disciplining, it seems that Aristotle tolerates violence disciplining as he views violence as a need to live in this world.
From the perspective of Christianity, Christianity condemns violence. According to the Bible, all forms of violence are deemed as blasphemous offenses against God and humanity. On the other hand, the Bible says that proper and appropriate disciplining should be applied when educating children.
As for Eastern philosophy, Confucianism promotes peace and condones violence. Confucius, the founder of Confucianism, sought to foster morality and good behavior in its followers. As violence disciplining physically and emotionally damages children, it is certain that violent disciplining has no place in Confucianism.
Now, let's look at two other philosophies, logic and psychology.
Oh no! With results like this, how can I face my parents? They'll punish me, hit me. All my friends are surely judging me. Why do I always freak out during exams?
A child's cognitive development derives from social interactions in their daily life. These relationships, directly and indirectly, influence a child's learning and their motivation to learn.
The use of verbal methods of discipline through explanation and reasoning are likely to provide the child with more cognitive stimulation than the use of corporal punishment without induction. Therefore, it can be concluded that when a parent physically punishes their child for bad behavior, it will encourage poor cognitive functions and cause children to feel anxious to explore their physical and social world, which makes them less likely to expand their cognitive skills.
If I don't go home tonight, at least I don't have to face them.
A youngster could have less self-control as they get older because they learn to dread punishment rather than appreciate the need to follow rules. Some kids might view spanking as an indication that their parents don't care about them, which might cause tension in the family.
Just can't seem to understand what goes on in class, no matter how much I revise.
Poor self-esteem and low self-confidence can increase the likelihood of poor academic performance. The child may have difficulty concentrating, and this can reduce his potential to excel academically. Severe psychological effects could lead to long-term disability, anxiety, depression, drug abuse, self-harm, and even suicide.
Falsafah Sejathera, which translates to well-being philosophy, is a Malaysian philosophical idea. It emphasizes the significance of fostering social harmony through principles like respect for one another, compassion, and the pursuit of happiness for all. On the other hand, violence discipline refers to the use of physical or emotional force to regulate or penalize behavior.
The two ideas seem to be opposed to one another. Violent discipline uses force and compulsions, whereas Falsafah Sejathera encourage harmony and understanding. However, they can both be seen as means of reaching a common objective preserving stability and orders in society.
Violence-based punishment should only be used as a last resort after all other attempts to resolve a problem have failed. It is employed in these situations to maintain public safety and to stop additional harm. Violence disciplining should not be used to silence dissent or violate people's rights. It is crucial to understand this.
3 out of 4 children experience some form of violent disciplining.
According to our research, violence disciplining can temporarily cease bad behavior because children are frightened. However, it does not work in the long-term setting and can make children more aggressive.
Parents who were frequently subjected to violent disciplining as a child were more inclined to believe that it was acceptable.
Therefore, their children were also disciplined using this manner, which perpetuates a pattern or cycle from generation to generation.
Violent disciplining has consequences on a child's health and overall well-being, such which include impaired cognitive and social-emotional development, behavioral and anxiety disorders, and the possibility of substance misuse far into adulthood.
Alternate techniques of discipline, such as timeout, restitution, loss of privileges, and verbal discipline, should be used in place of violence discipline in order to avoid the effects indicated on the child's wellness.
To answer the burning question, no, violent disciplining is not the way to go. We should work as a society to break the generational cycle of violent disciplining. As Mahatma Gandhi once said, I object to violence because when it appears to do good, the good is only temporary. The evil it does is permanent.